chosen in this world poses beauty to human alike, even war is coming.
Greeting, Sentinels! This is Universe Unique. And today, the truth comes out. Imagine the Avengers are back. But this time, something feels off. Not just a lineup change or new suits. I'm talking about an underlying tone, subtle, unsettling, that runs through every frame of the leaked Avengers Doomsday trailer shown at D23. And yes, even though it was recorded in terrible quality, there are signals most people missed. And one detail in particular completely reshapes what we thought about the team's return. If you're the kind of viewer who doesn't settle for the obvious and wants to understand the real keys to the multiverse, subscribe now. We're close to reaching an important milestone for the channel, and your support could be the push that gets us there. Plus, those who stay here always hear it first. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments, from which city and country are you watching this? I read every response, and if this content is keeping you connected to the biggest news and theories in the nerd universe, make sure to hit the triple kill. Like, comment, and share. Now let's get to it. The trailer begins like many others, with Marvel's classic fanfare, the familiar sound that signals something epic is about to start. But suddenly, it cuts. Silence. Then, Thor's voice. We can assemble the greatest team of all time. At first, it sounds like another inspirational speech, but if you listen closely, the tone is different. The pauses between words matter. It's not the confident arrogance of Thor in Endgame, nor the grandeur of Ragnarok. It sounds more like a plea than a statement of certainty. That abrupt break in the music is no accident. It's a message. Something is wrong with the Avengers. This isn't a triumphant introduction. It's a warning disguised as motivation. And if you connect this moment to other fragments in the trailer, like the tension between Sam Wilson and Shuri, or Yelena's cold demeanor, it starts to make sense. But there's one detail almost no one is talking about, and it's the key to understanding why this team isn't truly united. The most interesting part? Marvel hides it in plain sight. Here's the explanation. In the leaked D23 montage, there's a shot that lasts only a couple of seconds. A 1940s car driving through a rainy street. At first glance, it could be dismissed as archival footage or a simple flashback. But one detail stands out. The physical presence of Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter together, in action, as if this isn't a memory, but an active intervention in the past. The obvious question, what is Captain America doing there if his arc supposedly ended in Endgame? Chris Evans' presence is not accidental. This is not a tribute cameo. The trailer is planting the possibility of a real temporal breach. If Captain America is back, it's not as the elderly man who passed on the shield. It's the operational version. That implies only two possibilities. Either Marvel is retconning the ending of Endgame, or this is a direct multiverse intervention. Both options carry very different, but equally dangerous implications. What makes this more intriguing is the apparent connection to another sequence, where Loki appears in the shadows, watching silently. Considering how his second season ended, fused to the time tree, keeping the multiverse stable, this could indicate that something in that specific timeline is breaking down. What if Steve and Peggy aren't there by choice? What if they're pieces in a much larger game? The setting also strongly resembles the atmosphere of Captain America, the first Avenger, but with one key difference. The camera moves as if the scene is being observed from another reality. This isn't just nostalgia, it's a fracture. And if Captain America is back, whatever follows could change everything. One of the most unsettling aspects of the leaked trailer has nothing to do with the main villain. It comes from the heroes themselves. Overlapping dialogue fragments reveal a tense, bitter tone. Sam Wilson says, "If we can't see the good in each other, we've already lost the battle." This isn't epic, it's a warning. And critically, it isn't directed at the enemy, it's aimed at his own team. The montage cuts between Shuri, John Walker, Yelena Belova, Red Guardian, the new Falcon, Torres, and others representing different factions. There's no unity, only friction. Everything points to this new team of Avengers being fractured from the start. The shadow of the Thunderbolts looms. Captain America's legacy is contested, and Sam's leadership is not universally respected. This connects back to the ending of Captain America: Brave New World, which hinted at a provisional agreement between governments and factions. The trailer now shows the consequences of that fragile pact. Red Guardian's line, "This feels like a team that can bring light out of darkness," sounds more like hope than conviction. The internal dynamic echoes the early moments of Civil War. But this time, it's not ideological. It's raw. Trust issues, unresolved trauma, and divided loyalties. Marvel isn't repeating the same formula. It's exploring what happens when you assemble a team made of broken soldiers, dethroned rulers, and spies without allegiances. And this internal tension sets the stage for outside intervention. If the team is already fractured, Doom doesn't need to divide them. He just needs to wait for them to tear themselves apart. In a trailer crowded with dialogue, quick cuts, and dramatic lines, one element connects everything: a sound. A metallic hum blended with arcane energy that plays as a transition between character segments. This isn't background music, it's a signature. And in the Marvel Universe, the combination of technology and magic points to one name: Doom. This sound cue appears for the first time right after Thor's speech and repeats every time a new tense scene is introduced. It's not a generic editing effect, it's deliberate. It follows the same narrative pattern Marvel used to gradually introduce Thanos. First a shadow, then a whisper, then a looming threat. Here, Doom doesn't appear visually, but his presence is structural, embedded in how the trailer is constructed. If there's any doubt, look at what happens immediately after the sound. Each time, the following scenes show fragments of conflict, confusion, and mistrust. That's no coincidence. Doom isn't the kind of antagonist who strikes head-on at first. He infiltrates, he divides, he erodes confidence. In the comics, especially in arcs like Secret Wars or Infamous Iron Man, his greatest weapon isn't his armor, but his strategic manipulation. This indirect presence fits perfectly with the MCU's current state. After the disarray of Phases 4 and 5, Marvel needs a new villain who isn't just a physical threat, but a symbolic one. An architect of chaos. An intellectual with a plan. Doom embodies exactly that. Which is why this small repeated sound isn't just an audio effect. It's the fingerprint of the true enemy. And if his mark is already present, it means the game has already begun. Within seconds, the trailer jumps across universes, tones, and storylines. Shuri appears alongside members of the Fantastic Four. Yelena shares the screen with John Walker and Torres. Loki repeats a line from his series: "Destroying is easy. Fixing what's broken is the hard part." But the most startling detail is the appearance of characters that, until now, belong to separate franchises. Patrick Stewart's Professor X, James Marsden's Cyclops, the TVA, and what looks like the X-Mansion from the original films. What seemed impossible 2 years ago, merging the classic X-Men, the TVA, and the new Avengers into a single film, is now confirmed. But Marvel isn't presenting this as a straightforward crossover. It's collapse. Overlapping timelines. Teams that shouldn't coexist sharing scenes. Characters with closed arcs, like Stewart's Professor X, reappearing with new lines outside their original continuity. In the comics, this mirrors the chaos leading up to Secret Wars, 2015, when universes collided and only fragments survived. The comparison isn't accidental. In the trailer, Reed Richards says, "Today, we are your defenders. We will protect you." That line doesn't just fit his classic role as the Fantastic Four's leader. It resonates as a last resort declaration in a universe that's falling apart. What's at stake here is not just another battle, it's the very structure of canon. If these characters truly belong to different realities, and aren't just cameos or illusions, then what we're seeing is a complete rewrite of the MCU, a soft reboot disguised as chaos. That would also explain why the TVA is so present. Not to control variants, but to survive collapse. Because if each faction acts alone, There will be nothing left to protect, only rubble from universes that no longer align. Throughout the leaked trailer, there's a figure that never appears directly, yet its shadow is everywhere: Robert Downey Jr. Since rumors of his return to the MCU began, the real question hasn't been if he would come back, but how. And now the pieces are falling into place. If you analyze the tone of the Russo brothers' message, recorded from the set of Avengers Doomsday, alongside Paul Rudd's suddenly interrupted attempt at humor, it becomes clear that something too big to reveal is being deliberately concealed, even in a trailer. The strongest theory, which aligns with the MCU's narrative pattern, is that Downey Jr. is not returning as Tony Stark, but as a variant, specifically Victor Von Doom. This version is directly inspired by the 2016 infamous Iron Man comics, where Doom assumes Stark's legacy after his disappearance. It's not just a role reversal, it's a reinterpretation of power, guilt, and control. There are subtle indicators reinforcing this idea. First, the repeated use of shadowed silhouettes with partially obscured faces, echoing Doom's visual aesthetic. Second, the Russo brothers' comments about greater threats and heavier responsibilities. Third, Ant-Man's humor cutting off the moment precisely when something key could have been revealed. Marvel has used this evasive editing before, most notably in Endgame trailers, where characters were digitally erased to hide major twists. On social media, an old clip resurfaced: Ryan Reynolds eating a cookie with Downey's face on it. Though filmed in 2022, it reappeared right after D23, fueling speculation. That's not coincidence. Marvel knows its audience and understands that even the smallest out-of-place detail can drive discussion. If confirmed, casting Downey as Doom is not just an emotional shock, it's a strategic move. It transforms the MCU's most iconic face into the symbol of a new era, not as a guide, but as a threat. And that changes everything. Because how do you fight someone who already saved the universe once? And what happens if he now believes the only way to save it is to destroy it first? One of the briefest fragments in the trailer seems out of place, almost belonging to a different narrative tone. Loki watching from the shadows as 1940s cars pass slowly, and Peggy Carter crosses the street unaware. By itself, this image says little. But when connected to the ending of Loki Season 2, where he literally becomes the anchor of time, the meaning shifts. That look isn't curiosity, it's alarm. The montage suggests that something has fractured again. Not just a single stray timeline, but the integrity of the entire flow. The TVA appears repeatedly throughout the trailer, as if attempting to contain a structural collapse. Considering that Avengers Doomsday leads directly into Secret Wars, this chaos is anything but accidental. It's the prelude to a massive rewrite. But there's a greater risk hidden in the scene with Peggy and Steve. If Captain America is operating there again, it's not because someone brought him back. It's because past decisions are no longer secure. What Endgame closed is now being reopened. That means even the most meaningful sacrifices may no longer hold. Time, once treated as a line with permanent consequences, now looks like a model being reshaped by someone intent on redesigning history from scratch. This kind of temporal ambiguity recalls comic arcs where characters unknowingly inhabit artificial realities designed to test their stability. A clear example is House of M, where everything seemed real until it wasn't. If Avengers Doomsday is built on that same foundation, then nothing is guaranteed. Not the teams, not the villains, not even the past. That leads to an unavoidable conclusion. This is a breaking point, not just for the characters, but for the MCU itself. The rules are shifting, alliances are fragile, and time, once an ally, has become unpredictable. If this analysis has made you look at the trailer differently, consider subscribing. We're very close to reaching an important milestone for this channel, and your support could make the difference. You'll also stay up to date with every theory, breakdown, and leak Marvel is still keeping under wraps. Before you go, let me know in the comments what city, or even country, you're watching from. I read everything, and it's incredible to see how far this community reaches. Until next time, Judgment Day has already begun.